Welcome to This Organized Life. If you're a mom, wife, or coffee lover seeking advice on how to reduce clutter and reclaim time, look no further than your host, Lori Palau, founder of Simply Be Organized and author of Hot Mess, a practical guide to getting organized. For a lot of people, clutter is their dirty little secret, but it doesn't have to be. Each week, we will share practical tips, chat with experts, and provide strategies on how to keep you organized. I hope that by sharing our stories, you feel a little less alone and more empowered to tackle the areas that are holding you back. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. I'm your host, Lori Palau, and I am really excited for today's episode because not only are we going to be talking about a fun topic, well, it's fun for me. It's all about wellness and fitness, but I love our guest. I actually had the opportunity, we met because I had the opportunity to be on her show. Her name is Kate Cherichello, and she hosts a podcast called Be the Good, which I highly recommend everybody go and subscribe to. Not only is she adorable, but it's all about finding good in the world. Hello, don't we all need those reminders? We absolutely do. And she talks to tons of people, from business owners to, she's a performer, so she has like all these like Broadway actors that she talks to, producers, and just like everyday folks also. And it's such an uplifting show, and just hearing other people's perspectives, it's a great show. But while we were talking on her show, she mentioned, as in addition to hosting the podcast and being a Broadway actress, that she is also a certified fitness instructor. And we were kind of talking offline about the parallels between exercise and organizing. And I said, okay, we need to table this conversation and have it on This Organized Life. And so today is the day, people. You are in for a treat. So without further ado, let me welcome my friend Kate to the show. Welcome, Kate.
Oh my gosh, Lori, thank you. And thank you for that incredible introduction. I so appreciate it.
No, it's all true. And obviously you know, we always ask our guests, people just kind of like behind the curtain, to send their bio and any information. And Kate has so many incredible accolades like under her belt. And I didn't want to sit here and like read her resume, but I'm hoping that you can just, in your own words, like fill in the blanks for our listeners, let them know a little bit about you, like personally, professionally, and all the things.
Sure, thanks. And I'll keep it on the shorter side. You can always ask additional questions if needed, but I'm originally from New Jersey. We discovered not far from where Lori is actually. And I've been in Manhattan for a dozen years now. And historically, I've been in the musical theater side of performing. And then along the way, I found the on-camera side as well. In that world, I discovered I really love hosting. I love being myself on camera. I love just interviewing people and talking with people, hearing their stories. And that is the very overly succinct way of saying that led me to Be the Good with Kate, the weekly show I now have, where I get to do just that, interview people about the good they're doing in the world, like Lori. And along the way in the performing world, I found a love of the fitness world as well. And they really do go hand in hand, from that aspect of being an instructor, being a trainer, you're on all the time. I mean, that's so many professions, right? Lawyers are on all the time, doctors are on all the time, and everybody interacts with others in different ways. And having that performing foundation really helped me as then a fitness instructor. I love motivating people. I love that upbeat vibe. It was a way for me to get paid to work out, which worked out real well. And
Totally.
It became a great addition to the performing life here in New York City. So I have been grateful enough to teach master classes all over the country. And now with the world of virtual fitness, I've taught for Japan and Korea and Hawaii and all these crazy places that I never would have been able to tell you that was a part of my future years back. But I've been so grateful for it. And all of it continues today. Right now, I have virtual training that I do. I do health coaching virtually. I have in-person classes here in Manhattan, and an online on-demand platform where people can take bar and Pilates, new classes coming every week. There are free group coaching calls each month. And again, it all just works really well with still being a performer here as well.
I love so much of what you're saying, because first of all, like, I love the entrepreneurial side of this, right? Anytime you can monetize I tell this to people all the time, anytime you can monetize something that you enjoy and that you're good at, like, go for it. I am all about it. Because if you could bring value to somebody with something that you comes naturally to you or that you are skilled in, like, have at it. To me, that's like the American dream. So be able to do that and incorporate that with all of the other things that you have going on. So like from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, like kudos. I love that. And again, I love how you were able to say like all of these things just organically kind of fit together. You know, like I'm a performer, I need to stay in shape and I need to be on the top of my game. And so I can do that. And as a performer, I'm used to being in front of people and presenting. And so I'm able to take those talents and translate them in helping people in the fitness world. So I just love kind of like all about it. And then of course the podcasting side of things where like you get to be yourself and talk to cool people. And I think it's great. But when we were talking, well, first of all, and also did I sidebar to tell you that when I lived in New York, that my first job when I moved to the city was working at a gym because I couldn't afford a gym membership. I don't know if I told you that. Yeah, because you were laughing. You're like, I got paid to do it. I was dirt poor when I moved. I was 22 years old, moved to New York and had no money, like joining a gym membership in New York, like forget about it. And I was like, well, I'm going to get a job here. Like I'm going to get a job and so I can have a free membership. And that's exactly what I did. And
it's perfect.
Yeah. And that's where I wound up meeting my husband. So imagine that.
Well, look at that. Well, it's funny. A sidebar to the sidebar. I had every intention of meeting my husband while teaching these corporate classes. And for years, I teach at Barclays, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, like all these big investment firms. It's like, oh, we are set. This is going to work out so perfectly. It's going to be like a Hallmark movie. This handsome man's going to walk into my class. And there were a lot of handsome men in my classes. Funny enough, I met my husband online years later. The ironic thing is, turns out at one point we both worked in the same building, just in different companies within that giant building. So it's like we could have crossed paths, but we didn't. So isn't the world just funny?
That is a Hallmark movie. Like, think about that. It's like you have these two parallel people that are in the separate elevator bags, right? I love it. Well, okay. So now that we got that out of the way, we had spoken offline. I really was hoping you can kind of dive in. I think when people think about fitness, it elicits this emotional response in people. You either love it, it's your sanctuary, it's kind of like my mental escape or whatever, or you have that cringeworthy of like, oh, I don't want to work out. I feel like there's kind of two extremes that people see. I don't really get like an indifference. And then the only other third thing is I like it. I wish I could work out, but I don't have the time. So I want you to just maybe unpack that a little bit and just kind of weigh in on your experience and your thoughts around those.
It's such a great way to say it, to like unpack it, because it really is. It's that psychology of it. I mean, it all goes down to that. And fitness doesn't have to be this, oh my gosh, my life is devoted to being at the gym every day, or I don't do anything. Because any of those all or nothing mentalities, I mean, be it fitness or anything in the world, we see study after study, example after example, it doesn't work, right? Those extremes don't work. But finding that way to incorporate those healthy lifestyle choices into our day-to-day is so possible. It's so plausible, but we are constantly bombarded with noise, right? Like we're every other ad, if it's not for like some unhealthy food, it's for the diet that's going to erase the unhealthy foods, right? And, or it's for the next gym piece of equipment that's going to revolutionize the world. And it's just so much simpler than that. And all those tools can come in really handy for different people, but that's the thing, we're all different too. And what works for one person might not work for another person. And so all or nothing approaches don't work, the extreme approaches don't work. It's really finding out with trial and error, unfortunately, is that what works for you. And it doesn't have to be that, oh my gosh, hours and hours of my day, my brain is just overcome with how many steps am I getting, and this and that and the other thing. And, some people love counting calories and feeling like that's their little way of knowing what they ate. Some people love saying, like, checking a box, 1 hour of movement a day. I did it. I got it done. And again, it just keeps going back to what works for you. But the simpler the better. I mean, if you go to my fitness accounts, you'll see like my favorite hashtag over and over again is every bit counts. Every bit counts. And it's so true. I mean, I use the example a lot of parking far away at Target if you live in the suburbs and getting that extra walk. It's like these are the simple things that once we kind of turn our minds to just that awareness of how can I make just my day as it is healthier, there's so much that can be done. If I'm going out to eat, fried versus grilled is going to be a healthier choice. And will it ruin your whole atmosphere of where you're eating out if you don't get the fried thing, but you get it grilled? Just all of those. I could go on all day with examples, but it's all these little steps, and it doesn't have to be my whole life feels like it's getting turned around today if I want to do anything. Now, can it be? Sure. If that's what you want to do, you want to get a whole life change and you want to sit down with someone and talk about that, absolutely. But it's when we start to feel just pulled by that overwhelm of, it seems like there's so much out there and there's so many people telling me different things and there's constantly somebody saying this diet and that diet. It really just comes down to keep it simple, finding those small ways that I can make tweaks in my day to day, whether it's getting a little extra walking, maybe it's tweaking a couple of the food choices that are in my routines. Again, I'll stop there and let you ask, but because I could go on, but it really can be simple.
It's great. And if anybody is, again, watching on YouTube, I always take notes as people are talking. So if I look down, it's like I'm just jotting things down that I think are things at points I want to come back to. And I agree so much with what you're saying. And I'm thinking of my own life, right? So I'm in a completely different season. I am going through menopause. I'm in my early 50s. I weigh more now than I ever have before. And a lot of it is hormonal and all that stuff. And so I know that there's listeners out there that can relate, but I also have a lot of people who can't, but in whatever season of life you're in. So right now, my social media feed is filled and flooded with all of these weight loss plans for menopausal belly and losing weight and hormone supplements and all of these things, like all of these different things. And you can easily get like bombarded of like decision fatigue and overload of like, we all want to do what's going to work for us, right? We don't want to waste our time. We don't want to waste our money, but there's so many things out there that if something's a pain point for us, like this is a pain point for me, it doesn't cripple my life, but it's something that I want to try to solve. And sometimes you don't know where to turn. And I feel like in the fitness world, you see so many things, you have your high intensity, you have people that say you should run, people say you shouldn't run. People should say that you should work out 3 times a week. So you should work out a little bit every day. So people are like so much information. And again, it's like you become like, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And I see that in the world of organization where people are like, I don't know what product to buy. I don't know if I should be a minimalist or I should color code everything. And there's all of these like buckets that people want to put themselves in. And it doesn't have to be as rigid as that. And that's what I'm hearing from you. But I think it's a real thing. And again, that's where I see so many parallels in kind of what we both do, that how do you, and you touched on a little bit, like the practical steps that you could tell people of like, okay, just do these little things, like start to see, what are some things that you can do that are going to not be an all-in investment and say, oh my gosh, I screwed up.
Yes, 100%. And we talked a lot on the Be the Good with Kate episode that Lori was on about those parallels of the overwhelm, right? Walking into a house that feels so cluttered, like, I don't know where to start, so I'm not going to do anything, versus that, kind of starting like, even I tell a lot of people, write down everything. What are you feeling? What scares you about fitness? What scares you about not doing anything? And you're just kind of observing all of that and letting the very, what's the word? Like just overwhelmed brain, just kind of like get out whatever it wants to on paper. And then you can start with that one step. Right. And I know you see it with clients too. It's like, what's that one step I can take? And something that I've gone back to so much since hearing him interviewed and then reading his book is James Clear. Do you know James Clear?
Atomic Habits?
Exactly. I'm obsessed. I just love how he frames things, because it really makes it digestible to just us, the ordinary people, right? And one of the things I go back to so much with my clients is he talks about, in order to make a habit, you can't start by running the marathon, right?
Mhm.
You have to, you're not going to run a marathon every day. Or if we need an everyday example, like maybe you're not going to run 3 miles every day. That's completely overwhelming if right now you're sitting on a couch and you don't move at all, right? To give just a very blunt example. But he goes, what you can do are 10 squats. That takes 20 seconds. You could do 5 push-ups. And if you do something for 1 or 2 minutes every single day, and you keep it at 1 or 2 minutes to start, you're keeping the overwhelm away, but you are proving to yourself, because again, so much is psychological, so much is. You're proving to yourself that you have become the type of person who moves, who makes a conscious effort to help their body. So I'm always telling people, don't say only. It's never only 10
Mm.
squats or 5
That's
push-ups. That's
so good.
huge. We show up for ourselves, and showing up for ourselves in any capacity is what is going to then help us become someone who walks for an hour a day. Or you're saying, I don't have time for an hour. That's okay. You're going to become someone who takes 5 minutes a day to do some exercises to strengthen their body, or just move and wake up their body. There's so much that can be accomplished in a couple of minutes. And again, people get overwhelmed by like that, but that's why, people like me have jobs, right? Health coaches, or people that break things down online, and there are lots of people out there on social media for good that are trying to promote better habits, instead of trying to be like, oh, it's all or nothing, and if you don't do this diet, you're not going anywhere.
Or I'm just trying to sell you something and
Yeah.
whatever. And again, so I love what you said, and I'm a big James Clear fan as well. I'm also a fan of Dr. John Deloney, and I love the mindset that, because he says that as well. Like, I am somebody who takes care of my body. And so if I am somebody who takes care of my body, what does that mean? That means that I try. It doesn't mean that you never have ice cream. It doesn't mean that you take a day off, but it means that foundationally, this is something that you do. It's part of who you are. And so what are the action steps that you're going to do? And I am like an 80-20 person, right? So I'm like, listen, if I can show up and give 80%, like even if I'm not at 100%, that's fine. Like if I'm having a bad day and I just go to the gym, even if I'm not like beast mode, whatever, but I am there and I'm modifying the workout because I didn't have a good night's sleep, or I can only get, not only, but I can get there I can commit in my schedule for 20 minutes instead of an hour. It's still 20 minutes that I'm doing it. It's still 80% or 50%.
Yes.
But that is a mindset shift, because so many of us, present company included, came from this, like, it has to be the best, or I have to be all in, or it's just negated. And that is just a false narrative.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Years back, somebody in one of my fitness classes, I guess I made a comment of like, I'm really tired today, so I'm not going to do this exercise with you, but you go ahead. Like a joking, but I was exhausted. And she came up to me after and said, oh my gosh, it felt so, I don't forget the word she used, like relatable or something like that, that I knew you were tired and didn't want to do the exercise either. And that always stuck with me, because I was like, wow, sometimes people do put people who have words like fitness professional in their title or athlete in their title on a pedestal and think, well, they just must always be people who are at the gym or always running this amount of miles a day. I'm like, honestly, the other day I went to the gym, but I went to the gym and I walked for 15 minutes on the treadmill and then I left. But you know what? I showed up, I moved my body a bit, and that was what I needed for that day. So it's all of us get tired, all of us have days we're not motivated, but it is that, like you said, that mindset of what can I do? And the other thing that I always love to remind people is, did you ever regret a workout? Right? Did you ever regret moving? Right?
Totally.
Maybe we regretted going all out on those lunges when really we should have stopped before, because we're so sore the next day, that kind of thing. But did you regret moving the body? Like, we always feel better. We always feel more alive, more awake. Our brain is on better. And studies after studies will show you too, like when it comes to workplace productivity, people who focus on their health are so much better employees. I mean, the list goes on.
And again, you could substitute the word organizing and decluttering for fitness. It is the same thing. Sometimes you're like, oh, slow getting started. Like, do I really want to sit here and edit my closet? But when it's done, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I feel so much lighter. And if it's that ongoing practice of doing those little incremental things. And you mentioned athletes, and I think that's also really another important point, because, you have people, and I'm thinking of this in my own personal experience, right? So I have two grown-ish kids. I say they're 19 and 22, and my 22-year-old was my super athlete growing up. And I mean, like, voted most athletic in her high school and played 3 sports and all the things, and just very, very active, and was used to a very regimented fitness schedule because she was in training with coaches all the time. And then went into, like, all of a sudden you don't have that outer accountability of somebody doing that for you. And you have to find that discipline elsewhere, right? Whether it's with an accountability partner, a buddy, you're joining a rec team. Now, through college, she played like intramural sports and stuff. She didn't like play professionally for school, but like always remained active. But it is a completely different experience. And I remember having conversations with her when she first like went away to school. And it was the first time in her like life that she didn't have a coach making her run or making her do whatever. And she said, I've always done it and never thought about it because I had somebody constantly motivating me. I had my team, I had all these things. And now when it's only on me, I'm finding it like really hard. Like, the thought of going out for a run is like, I don't want to go out for a run, and I found it very interesting. And I think that there's probably a lot of people that are listening that are like, I am in a different season of life now. And so the parameters change on how I view exercise and what is my driver for being motivated to get up to do the thing. And so I'm wondering if you can just like maybe speak into that, or if you've seen that with some of the clients that you work with that, were like, wait a second, I used to be this like, go 100 miles an hour. And now I'm like, what?
Totally, 100%. And what you said just there of the different seasons of life and basically knowing what your motivation is at that time, that's huge, right? Because if you just say go out and run, it's like, well, I need more than that. I always need the why. Why am I running, right? Well, I'm running because I know that for the rest of the day, I'm going to be so much better at everything else I have to do if I start by getting a run in. Or like if I have an audition in the morning, I have to wake up earlier to get the workout in before, because for me, and this is again, everybody's different. For me, getting that blood flow in the morning makes everything better for then what follows it. And I know, like, even just seeing myself on camera, if I haven't worked out, I look different. Just there's just so many physical benefits, but the mental benefits too. And so that is often my why, right? It's like how I will feel afterwards. But I know I have the sweetest couple. They're 75 years old each, and they have been training with me for years. And I love, like, their why is that they are so proud that they are in their 70s and still moving. And we're not doing boot camp classes with them. I'm talking, we're like, on all fours, we're doing some reaches, we're doing some squats, some leg lifts, things just to really make sure that all the muscles are moving and staying strong. And that is what makes them feel good. And they know that they need it, and they know that it's so good for them. And so they show up every single week. So, but then that is a bit different than in the corporate world where I've taught for so many years, seeing those 20 somethings come in who had just left college and are used to being either athletes in college or in their intramurals, very similar to what you're saying with your daughter, who they want the craziest boot camp I can throw at them, but they know that they have to show up there if they want to make it happen because they need someone to tell them to do it. And the other reason it works out is because it's in their office, because they have crazy hours. So they just have to get on the elevator, go to the gym, go back to their desk for the night shift. So like, just to give two like total opposite worlds. And then you have everything in between. Like I've trained pregnant clients who are there because again, they know they're going to feel better and they know they're going to have an easier pregnancy if they are stronger. I have someone who it reminded me of, as you were saying, like going through menopause, who says to me, like, I feel like I'm doing what I've always been doing. And I always show up at the gym and I'm always so conscious of my nutrition, but my body is doing so many different things that it's like the same old stuff that I was doing that felt so good isn't working the same. And so it is like life is constantly a trial and error, right? Of what's working today or what's working this week. So it's just keep having that like optimism of I'll find it. And maybe today didn't quite work out like I thought it would be, but what's the why? Why do I want to show up? Why do I want to make this positive choice for myself? And just kind of going with that each day.
I love it. And the word that keeps coming into my mind is intentionality. And I think again, it goes through, I know I sound like a broken record, but again, with organizing and working out, it's not a one and done thing, right? You may have this goal, right? Your goal might be to run a marathon or lose a certain amount of weight or whatever that is, or, have your, organize your closet or be able to park your car in your garage, whatever your goal is. That's great that you get it, but it's not like, okay, period, the end, we're done.
Right.
Life goes on, and, for better or worse, like we need to continue these healthy practices, whether it's with our bodies, whether it's with our mind, whether it's with our spaces, to continue to navigate that. So what's next? Okay. We achieved that goal. You ran the marathon or the 5K or whatever it is. Now what? We don't just come to a screeching halt, but you also might not be able to sustain that same level of intensity. And the same goes through with organizing. You may have had a goal and been working day and night to, declutter the space or get out of debt, or all of these things have so many parallels, but then you just need to redefine it. And I think that is what's so important. And I see a lot of women, when we talk about kind of the productivity and the mental load and all of the things with wearing so many hats, that again, and I was this person where I was like, I just don't have time. I'm working. I'm a busy mom with little kids, like back in the day, and I was like, I just don't have time. And yes, it's hard, but again, I love what you said at the top of the show, where you're like, okay, just don't park at the far spot at Target. If you can't get to the gym because you can't, figure out another way to make it work, because for your mental health, your mental sanity, not to mention the physical benefits that come from eating right and working out, you're going to be a better version of you.
Yes, you're going to be a better version of you. Yes, absolutely. And just like going with more examples like the Target one, another one I love, in the suburbs, we have these giant stores, right? Like super Walmart, super Target, super everything. Taking a lap around the whole store before you start shopping. Like I did a thing on Instagram a couple months ago where I checked how many steps I got, just like how many steps did I add to my day just doing one lap. I'm forgetting the number right now, but it was like significant. And it only took a couple minutes. And it was like, I'm at the store already. I didn't have to do any extra effort. If you have a child in the cart, you just push them with it and you get that one lap in, and then you do your official shopping. So all those things, or like if it's a rainy day and you could safely walk up and down the stairs in your house, walk up and down those stairs and just challenge yourself. How many times am I going to do it? Maybe it's 2 one day, maybe it's 20 another day, but you just did it. You got your heart going, you worked those glutes and the legs. Just there's so much, I tell people a lot in my Pilates classes, like these side leg lifts, do it while you're watching TV. When we're sitting there, when you finally do get that break, can you lie on the ground and do a couple of things? Or even sitting at the chair, sitting on your chair, sit up tall, do some abdominal work, just contracting and lifting, opening up the back a bit. There's so many ways to do that, to add those extras.
I couldn't agree more. And the other thing I want to say, and again, it's really just for people to be well, right? I want people to be well. Mentally, physically, all the things. And I think as a parent, and I know myself, I was very guilty of this. And it was, I was a big martyr in the sense of like, I felt I had to do it all. And all of these things, like I was getting some badge of honor for being busy and, doing all of the things by myself. And I think there's a gift in being able to show your kids that you're prioritizing some time for your own wellness so that you can get on the floor and play with them, so that you can have some peace and calm in your life. I walk with a friend of mine. Yeah. We started walking during COVID. We live in a neighborhood. And during COVID, we just started like lapping miles and miles and miles. And it was great. And we've sort of kept it up throughout, like, since then. And we try, it doesn't happen every day because sometimes we have things come up, but we pretty much try to do it. And a couple of weeks ago, we were going on a weekend and I said, do you have time to do like a longer walk? And she said, yeah, I just have to be back by a certain time because she had somewhere to go for her daughter. And we went and she was back in time, but her daughter was like really mad. Like, you were gone for so long. And, all this, like, why, trying to guilt her mom. And I said to my friend, I know you want to strangle her, but sit down and have a conversation with her and explain to her, even if she doesn't fully comprehend, like, just like you have time to go play with your friends and you have time to do things, like I need to have some alone time too. And I need this. And I promise you I'd be back. So I wasn't choosing the workout over my kid, but I think it's healthy as parents to have our kids see that we are doing things for ourselves because we are then giving them permission. They're leading by example to be able to know that this is something that's a priority. And this is, again, we're talking about long-term wellness. And exactly. That's what we talk about here at This Organized Life. It's like, how can you just be well in all aspects of your life? And so I love these little things that you've been, dropping for us.
Something that you said that ties with this so well is you mentioned how people they want to get their car in their garage. So they are working overtime to get that garage organized. And then afterwards, it's not the period at the end of the sentence. And I think of that, another great parallel is I want to lose X amount of pounds before my wedding, or I want to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight, or, I want to run a marathon. So I'm going to be super dedicated before. And then it is like, what happens after? And we don't have to keep that up. We don't have to keep that intensity up because, again, not sustainable long-term. And long-term wellness, long-term peace of mind in a clutter-free home, same idea, right? It's like, how do we then maintain it? And that's where it becomes that finding the way to put those steps into our everyday lives, picking up, making it a habit to pick up after yourself at home, to put things where they belong at home. Same thing with fitness, making it that habit to start your day with movement or end your day with movement, or bring a friend in. That's so huge and such a great way to keep something going. Is I love walking dates with friends. Like, instead of going out for a drink, let's go out for a walk. And people are really about it because we all need to find ways to move more. Yeah. Just wanted to tag that in.
No, I absolutely love it. And again, for people that are listening, because, people are like, what's the magic number, right? I think in life, people are, what's the magic number? How many pairs of shoes should I own? How many shirts? People want that magic number. Tell me what. And again, everything is relative. And I hate to be the bearer. Like, I'm just not somebody who believes that you should have, this is it. Your life is going to be in a nice, neat bow if you have 3 pairs of shoes and 5 shirts. Like, that just doesn't work that way. And I think the same goes true for fitness. But the one thing that I'm taking away from this conversation is it's the ongoing practice. So every day might not look the same. And some days you may have time to do an hour-long workout or maybe even a 2-hour workout, And some days it might be 20 minutes or 5.
Yeah.
But doing something every day, even if it's 5 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever, is, again, it's keeping that like mind, body, like we're on this journey together kind of thing.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And finding where it works in your life. The people I see that really seem to have the most success with sticking to plans long term. And
Mm-hmm.
this is more in the fitness versus nutrition, because nutrition, obviously we need to eat throughout the day. But for movement, I see people who find a way to have it automatically in their schedule. And then again, going back to that mindset of finding ways throughout the day to move more. And that mix of that, it's the person. 6 a.m. sounds insane for some people. Other people I know, that's their workout time and that's what works for them. And nothing can get in the way of 6 a.m. Your kids don't have practice at 6 a.m. Your boss doesn't have a meeting at 6 a.m. unless you're talking with another country or something like that. But for the most part, that I've seen people like nothing can interrupt that. Or it's like at work and it's a lunch hour and they can go in a conference room, or they can leave and go to a nearby gym, or they have a gym in their building, and it's that. Or it's, again, if you're not in an office and you're not in a gym setting, you don't need a gym membership. It's that as soon as you wake up, I'm going to do 10 push-ups, 10 squats, a couple deep breaths, and go on with my day. It's finding that, making it, going back to, again, habit, right? Of finding a way to put it in your life. And then the mindset of how can I keep adding movement throughout my day?
It's so true. And again, I've never been an early morning workout
Yeah.
person. Like I just am not. And there have been seasons of my life where that was the only time I could do it and I would do it. And other times that was when it worked and I didn't do it and I probably wasn't my healthiest. One of the things that's been actually great for me because I'm all about time blocking and putting margin in and all that stuff. And you're right. I talk all about that dorky stuff. But now that I'm an empty nester, I actually prefer working out at like around 4 or 5 because it forces me to stop work and go leave. So I'll walk in the morning if I can, which is great. I do like my morning walk with my friend. And then I come back and I work either from my home office or with a client or wherever. And then because I'm not running kids anymore to basketball, soccer, guitar lessons, whatever it is, which I spent decades doing, but I don't have that now. I'm like, this forces me to say, okay, I'm ending my work day right now. I'm pausing it and I'm going to replace that time that I was chauffeuring and doing all that harried stuff with a workout. And then I love that. But even 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been realistic for me. So I think, again, look at where you are, look at where you are in your world. Is it something that, and I never thought I would enjoy doing a like 4:30 workout. Like if you would have asked me that, I'd have been like, no, I don't want to do that. And now I actually like look forward to it. Like my day ends and I do that and then come home and shower and like relax. But it would not have worked for me at another point in my life. So if you're listening out there, think about, play around with different scenarios of how can I work in some sort of wellness in where I am to meet me where I am.
And that's why, again, there's never a one size fits all. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stand here and be like, well, if you work out at 8 a.m. every day, you're going to be successful. It's like, no. Or if you stock your shelves with only X, Y, and Z foods, it's going to be great. It's like, no, everyone is different. We are all so different. And the psychology of it is different. And some people want a plan written out and they will follow it to a T. Other people will be like, I need a lot more flexibility and everything in between. So I love that you found this like new schedule that's going to work great for you.
Yeah. It is. It's been fun and I really like it. And I do go with friends because there are days that I don't feel like it. It's like, maybe I had like a long day at work or it's raining outside and you're like, I don't want to go. And knowing that I have a couple of friends that we all go together, that helps. We have like a group chat and it helps to motivate us to show up even when we don't want to. And so just having that for people out there, we don't have to do it all alone. We really don't. So,
it's so helpful.
All right, Kate, I could talk to you all day about this and so many other things. Tell our listeners, if they want to connect up with you, what is the best place to find you? I know you have, like you said, all these on-demand stuff. You do masterclasses, all this stuff. So whether somebody just wants to follow you on social media or maybe wants to work with you,
Great.
plug away.
Great. And there's a lot of free resources on my website, bebykate.com. That's BEBYKATE.com. And that also has links to Instagram, which is bebykate, but there's a period in it just to throw you off. So it's BE period BYKATE. And I have, on-demand platform for Pilates, yoga, not yoga, Pilates bar, and a whole bunch of other classes in HIIT and breaking down strength training and meal plans. And then I also have 3 courses that are the 101 series. It's Bar 101, Pilates 101, and HIIT 101. And that's a great way because over the years, I've seen a big issue is people coming into a class or getting a class on YouTube or somewhere on demand and trying to go all out, but not knowing the basics of the exercises. And, so many classes are tailored to a slightly more advanced level, or even a beginner class kind of assumes that certain foundational exercises. So I made that three class series, the 101 series, so that people can really have a digestible way to, and they can hit play, they can rewind, they can fast forward to say, I feel safe going into a workout. So that's there too. And again, there's a blog on my website, lots of free ideas, resources, exercises there. And I love hearing from people. Please reach out if you have just random questions you want to ask me, go for it.
Awesome. And of course, we will link to all of this in our show notes. So if you are out, maybe walking right now, or don't worry about it. Make sure you head over to our podcast page or wherever you're listening, and you'll be able to connect up with Kate there as well. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're just going to wrap up with our Hot Mess Minute. So sit tight. All right, Kate, this has been so fun. And again, I'm so close to New York. I'm like, I wish I was in New York, but I'm only an hour or so away. I'm like, I'm going to come in and maybe we'll go for a walk.
We'll go for a walk.
We will go for a walk. I love it. So we always ask our guests a few questions. One of them is obviously about inspiration because you're inspiring us. And I know you already referenced James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. So that might be the answer that you're going to give here. But we always like to know, is there a book that's been either transformational, in your own evolution, or just something that is a go-to that you recommend for people that you can share with our listeners?
Sure. I recommend to everybody How to Win Friends and Influence People. To some people, it's re-saying things that they already know, and to other people it's enlightening for the first time. It depends on where you fall on that spectrum of personalities, I guess, but I just think it's so wonderful. There's just so much actionable advice and just reminders of just how to be a great human and also communicate with others in both professional and personal environments. I think I read it the first time in college. I highlighted it all through, read it since. Yeah, it's a great one.
I love it. And we'll, of course, link to that. Yeah, just be a good, kind human. That's it. It's a low bar, people. Just do it. And then because our show is all about honesty and authenticity, we like to know, as you said, people assume that you have it all together because you're a fitness instructor. People think my house is always Pinterest perfect, and it's not, far from it. So in this particular season of your life, where do you feel that you are the most organized, and where do you feel like you're a little bit of a hot mess?
It's funny because the season of life I'm entering right now is a very different one. So everything feels off. I know Lori already knows, but I'm pregnant as we record this. And so yes, indeed. So it's just everything feels a little more like a hot mess than it usually does. But I will say that the organized part, I think because fitness is such a part of my life, I do feel like that I always know that I'm making time to do that. And like I said, the other day, I did a 15-minute walk on the treadmill, but I did something. And so, yes, even again, not to assume that a fitness instructor is always doing hour-long workouts at the gym, but I do always find time in my day to do something because I know that it benefits the entire rest of my day. So I would say that is a piece that I always hold on to. no matter what.
I love it. I love it. I think that's so great. Kate, you are just a joy, and I'm so glad that we met. And I'm also going to link to the episode that I was on your show as well, so that our listeners can do like a cross back to back. And I encourage you again, like I said at the top of the episode, listen to some of her other episodes as well, because it really is just about like kindness, inspiring stories from all like a diverse group of people. And Kate's a great and gracious host. And so I'm thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. And I'm so glad that you were able to carve out time to come on This Organized Life and share your wisdom with our people.
Well, Lori, I can't thank you enough. I'm serious. We're going to make this walk date happen at some point, because I could talk to you all day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if this is your first time tuning into our show, welcome. Please click the follow button or subscribe or plus or whatever they're doing these days. That way you won't ever miss an episode. We have well over 300 in our library, so you can go back and scan through the ones that resonate with you. And if you are a book reader and are looking for some good books, we also have a Goodreads list that we add all of our guest recommendations on. So you can also head over there and hear what some of our most popular guests have recommended. And a lot of them, they're not just leadership books, but they are just about being the best version of yourself. And so there's some great, great resources there. Follow us on social media, This Organized Life Podcast. And until next week, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, please spread the love and share it with your friends. And if this is your first time joining us, make sure to click the subscribe button wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. And while you're there, please leave us a review so other people know that our show is worth the listen. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at This Organized Life Podcast. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can head on over to our website at simply the letter B like boy organized.com, which is filled with tons of resources, including free downloads, checklists, links to our amazing organizing partners, and all of our digital offerings. I'll see you next week for another episode of This Organized Life.